Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cannabis Pros and Marketing Masters podcast, hosted by the Beard Bros Network. I'm your host, Nigel Despinasse. Today, we are joined with Matthew Jerome. This dude, man, cool as a fan. He's got, he's done everything from kinesiology, coaching hockey, to growing, being a consultant, a hash connoisseur, and a writer. Honestly, man of many talents.
Oh, you're too kind, Nigel. I appreciate you very much, brother. It's
Of course, dude.
epic to be here. Really appreciate you having me on the show. Really looking forward to this chat, man.
Same, dude. Give the people like a 30,000 foot overview of like who Matt the Man is.
Oh, love it. Well, you've painted a positive picture, so I'll go from there. I own and operate a consulting company based out of here in Toronto, which is a way too formal way of saying that I provide medicinal education to anybody who will listen. I really love working with healthcare practitioners, patients, patients' families, anybody who's looking to incorporate cannabis safely and effectively into their daily lives. This is kind of where a lot of my focus has been driven in the last couple of years. Founding Maristem Cannabis wasn't actually my original goal in the industry. Like many, I wanted to come in and work with craft companies, really try to drive that quality scene, help people understand the value in quality cannabis, especially as medicine, and how
Absolutely.
it really translates again for being a proud patient of mine, being a proud patient since I was 13, 14. Maybe didn't
Sweet.
realize it till I was a little bit later, but cannabis was my escape from anxiety and a lot of later on pain and injuries, and really trying to use it as alternative medicine, which introduced me to the wonderful medicinal community that really to me is at the heart of everything. The more I've learned about this and done a deep dive into cannabis, the more you realize how important there are important the cannabis scene is to many really ailed people, and how brave the people really were who stepped up. So yeah, I
Yeah,
really want to just drive that and help anybody up here in Canada who wants to help that education scene and understands the value in it.
totally get that. Yeah, the I love what you said about the medical community being at the heart of everything as far as, cannabis culture is concerned. Because, you know, on the one hand, you can go back, 10,000 BC, China using cannabis in different formulations for medicine. You can even see it like early wave cannabis culture in America
Hmm.
with, Dennis Perone out of California. Brownie Mary was in AIDS wards and hospitals slinging brownies.
The
Uh,
bravest of the brave, like
Truly, man. Old lady
people.
went to prison. I mean, went to jail a bunch of times and just
Yep.
said, "When are you going to let me out so I can keep slinging these brownies?"
Yeah, they didn't know who they were messing with. She was an absolute force in the industry in the best way possible. Not in, I use that term just so collectively now in the
I get
community,
it. I'm the
which
same way
is
though.
which is where my roots and my heart are. Another one I urge everybody to check out is Dr. Todd McAraya, who was a huge proponent of the on the medical side of things, helping write prescriptions for people despite a lot of threats and a lot of heat, and really did like all the people from that community who were trying to do the right thing, did it with real heat on their back. And no, I tip the hat to everybody whose shoulders we stand on, for sure.
And I was about to say, I mean, it's the sorry, if you see me like moving, it's because I'm moving you around.
Not a problem, man. Don't worry.
The the shoulders that we stand on are ones of giants. You know what I mean? It was like people who like paved the way for essentially us to have access to a way of life where we didn't have to like sweat over how we make our money. Like
Hmm.
like God damn, man. You know, like Canada is federally legal. It's crazy. Like
It's nuts. It's really, I had a moment not too long ago actually where I went out of my building, go have a smoke, go for a walk. While I'm walking again, it's really sunk into my bones that I'm safe.
yeah.
I'm safe from my entire life being ruined by a cop who needs to meet a quota, or someone who wants to make a scene and really, I don't know, like it just sunk into me that I didn't have to worry about that. Walked right back in. Cops were actually at my building dealing with something or other, but I
And
didn't
they
worry.
can't care about what you're doing. They've got
No,
bigger fish to
they've
fry.
got bigger fish to fry, and we've all known it. It's something that has been so blatantly aimed and weaponized against communities. And we know now, again, from the history of it, that cannabis was used to really try to wipe people off the map. It was really based in racist, homophobic, xenophobic anger and hatred from small-minded men and people who wanted to control everything, and unfortunately did a very good job. And that's what we're really trying to work through and sift through as this generation. But I really take it as a duty and a responsibility that, like you said, we're able to have this plant around. I've got some incredible cannabis sitting in front of me here, that that is only available because of very brave people. And it's unfortunate that a lot of them are still in jail right now. And again, try to always bring that into it as far as one of my stands in cannabis, especially in Canada. All the damage. 4 gram of cannabis should have been sold. Roll out programs to reduce and heal the damage done by this completely wrong, law and legislation. And that is something that really, seriously hurts. I know it doesn't affect a lot of people, but being from the medicinal community and seeing it kind of paved over by the recreational and adult market, even here in Canada, that has that at least had and still do, but a very thriving medicinal cannabis scene through our ACMPR and MMPR programs. There was very important people who stood up and did the same here in Canada.
I love that, man. And those are, it's like the reason that you need community, barring industry, right? Like we were just talking about, is because those people who made industry even possible sprang from community.
Yep.
And don't have their stories told, don't have their flowers given to them, don't have a platform like a bunch of these people have to be able to espouse their story.
Yep.
And it's it's heartbreaking in some ways because you watch history get erased. Like there's people in the legalization movement, there's people in the black market days where like stories are like going, you know what I mean? Like there's only so many people who can preserve a story before it becomes second, third, fourth, fifth hand accounts. And at that point, what is memory?
Yeah, it is. And it's unfortunate that we have lost many stories to the threat of prohibition, and we've lost cannabis varietals. We've lost
so many,
lots of things that we wish we had back, but there are so many people out there that's the wonderful thing, that since it's kind of unfolding with the health and awareness movement that seems to be going on globally, where people want to understand what's going into their body, which I absolutely love to see. And it's been a huge driver of my philosophy of cannabis, that I want to put quality, organic, pesticide-free, clean cannabis into my body and want to provide that to people. especially those afflicted by other very, very serious ailments that cannabis has a huge ability to help. Let's give them quality medicine.
Yeah.
which
Fire out.
I'm sad to say hasn't been received as well as I expected. And I even had a realistic approach to it. I understand the legalization movement needs its Coors Lights and needs its bulk cannabis to get it to people who want to be introduced to it, but quality has sold itself in every single market, from desk chairs to cheese to books. I name it. There is a market out there for someone who wants the rare, who wants the unique. And when you layer the medicinal aspect of cannabis on top of that, the infinite potential I see is, almost mind-boggling that I can't get people to understand how important it is to a quality market, and to have that variance, to have people understand the product. Educated customer spends more money, period.
That's God's honest truth, man. Because it's the thing that I think people don't like buy into is the idea that in a commoditized market where everything is racing towards the bottom, they think if I sit here and I charge what I think my product's worth, it's not going to move and I'm going to go out of business. And like, valid fears. But if you're bringing something that's differentiated, if you don't bring middies, then you should be good.
It's how the legacy market, which is what they call it here in Canada, anyone who was part of the black market before cannabis was cool, which part of me loves, it's kind of classy, but
yeah, of course,
it's how that quality ran it. It's if you were trying to sell bulk cannabis and I stuck my nose in it and I didn't like it, it wasn't selling. And that is how that we didn't have tests, we didn't have COAs, we didn't have anybody but the dedicated people who were trying to make either bulk cannabis, which always had a quality aspect to it, in my opinion, much more so than the regulated market, for understandable reasons. Let's put it out there.
Yeah, you got different
there's
taxes
a lot
that you're essentially paying on things.
There's a lot. I would love to get into that. We'll get into that for sure. But it is understandable that you're gonna have growing pains, but a lot of them, in my opinion, should have been foreseen and completely avoided. But the quality was what sold. You could base your value based on how much of a response the community had. It was a completely sales driven market, if you will, but it wasn't based on anything but reputation. It was based on quality. It was based on word of mouth. It wasn't
because somebody secured a $5 billion investment to sink into their.
It wasn't because someone mind washed you because if you see their logo, more than the other one.
That's exactly it.
Which again, I understand is how our market works now. But I'm always, especially from the medicinal side, trying to show the value of quality cannabis to patients, to the market and everything in between. But as you touched on before, it's unfortunate here in Canada, and we're getting much more vocal about it because we've been silently struggling for a long time, that the taxes are crushing people completely out of business.
Preach.
And it is very, very simply based on, I love sharing this, especially on the American networks, because not many people understand the behind the scenes, that our legislation wanted to tax.
You guys got like Parliament, right?
Oh yeah, it's all the way up. They wanted to tax it on a $10 per gram wholesale value. So it's $1 or 10% or whatever's higher. So in no market ever has there been a $10 value. So this right there in one sentence, in my opinion, has crippled the market, because we're down somewhere around last night, 3. People are really trying to scrape and get production value down, trying to just make it. And that is ridiculous, because the government automatically takes $1 out of that. They're 33% or higher, depending on what kind of value you have. They get paid first, and people are genuinely like trying to get reach and help, and they get the high five. Thanks for the money.
Yeah.
Cannabis made $7 billion, I think, last year for the GDP, crushing more than a couple other very heavyweight industries combined.
For
And
sure.
that is, and still, again, we're overlooked. There's a lot of lobbying going on. There's a lot of people who are really trying to move the needle. And it's falling, unfortunately, on deaf ears. That government loves its money way too
Yeah, I was
much.
about to say,
And it
story as old
really,
as time.
it's really tough, especially for someone like myself trying to do something on the ancillary side and provide services to a market that isn't properly educated or understands, like we said, the value of the product being offered. It is simply another CPG to the government. That's
And they
really
tax it as such.
exactly, which is what it is on that side. But it seems that no nourishment has been fed into the medicinal community, which is outrageous. Just coming from what I stated, so
Yeah,
outrageous. But
that is outrageous, man. And
yes,
it doesn't feel like to speak frankly, as an American, it feels like if anywhere is going to give credence to a medical market over a rec market, it would be Canada.
yes.
You guys have a really rich cannabis history. You guys have, you have your healthcare, which, always going to be jealous of, especially as somebody who's constantly goes between being employed or not.
Oh man,
That
I
makes a
don't know what
difference,
I
man.
do. I genuinely don't know what I do, and I reach out, and my heart goes out to you guys right now with the weight of everything. I know it's a really tough time, and yeah, I genuinely don't know what I do. So it's ironic. I was just gonna interject in that I know this is my stance, and I always have to say it as a proud patient, and doing my best to speak up for all of us,
Damn right.
whenever we get the chance. But I am so, like we alluded to it before, being in Canada, in a place that I am safe to do so. I'm safe to stand up and say I'm a medicinal patient. We have people looking out for us. I'm allowed to smoke a joint anywhere that a cigarette is allowed. Here in Ontario, we have different rules in our provinces, but they seem to have gotten that right, at least. That's we're able to kind of integrate into society now, and it's a really cool feeling. And I wouldn't trade it. But it is
Absolutely.
something that I always have had the mindset that we always can do better, and try to move the needle and the ship wheel, at least a couple of degrees in the direction that I believe really needs to be fed again. Our medicinal community really needs it.
And I totally agree. And I'm gonna shift gears a little bit, because I wanna double back to something that we talked about on our call the other day.
Let's do it.
You told me about your background and your mom's background, and I was just like, I was like very it was it's one of those backgrounds where you like don't really ever hear from people who come from that background, and then being a child of someone who like deals with these things, and then having cannabis like fork into that through these like unconventional means. Like, anyway, sorry, I know I'm like speaking broadly about it. Like, give the people some background on
I'll
it.
fill in the gaps, which I think I know for me, as I've gotten older, kind of makes me realize why I tick and why I'm a little different than the average Joe. But my mom worked as a journalist, specifically as a war correspondent for BBC, CBC, The National, and a number of other, places that she moonlit for before I was born, and worked in a number of places: Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon. Lots of places where people were flying out and she was flying in, trying to, get the real story. So having that, a journalist at heart, always close by, I think is one of the other reasons that I try to stand up and see something, say something.
Yes,
And
indeed.
so when I came around, I was a little bit of a surprise. And being the adventurous type, she decided that she obviously was going to shift gears and get out of the danger zones, and
Yes, indeed.
but still having her background, did a lot of producing and directing. And I ended up traveling with her a lot, especially to Europe when I was young. Stayed a lot in, London, Paris, Amsterdam, Belgium for a bit, and Ireland I fondly remember. So these were a lot of places that she had built relationships for a long time, and we kind of had second homes there. I never rarely stayed at a hotel. It was always with different families from these wonderfully culturally rich backgrounds. And having my mom, know kind of the outskirts and the outcasts, they were very cool people with a lot of cool stories. Cannabis came into it both from the European scene, just her and her cameraman, her being an ex-hippie, and the crew that she worked with being very cut from the same cloth. Hash and cannabis were around, especially when I was older. I think they try
And
to
that
hide it.
was so that was something that I wanted to highlight for everyone listening. If uh if you remember what Matt had just said about where his mother was covering, the unifying factor within all of those places is that they have a particularly rich history of hash. And that was
Yes.
another thing that we connected on was, I told Matt about some dreams that I had around hash, and he was just, it was one of those moments where like when it's like the Spider-Man meme when everyone's pointing at each other and you're like, you love it, not, we're not talking about like dabbable, like nothing like that. We're talking about like hash, like
Yeah.
hand hash, live pulled from the plant, made into bricks, static, hit with the sticks and everything. Like
I
that.
want that traditionalist, man, like the old school. No, I
Yeah,
love
man.
it.
It's a different beast, and it was, especially for like Amsterdam, like you were saying, like the funniest part I think about Amsterdam is, one of the drug capitals of the world, and they don't even have their legal situation figured out. Everything's illegal till it walks through the coffee shop door. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So you have all of this. You have Californian weed there right now. If you were to go out there, like you have, Afghani hash that you can literally see, of Moroccan hash that's there. And it's like, you know, these are the things that we were talking about as something that needs to be in our markets,
Yes.
because
Yes.
it's such an important part of cannabis throughout its, lifetime history. Like this is a big
It
part of it.
is the wine to the grape to me.
Yes,
And
indeed.
it is, you mentioned it, Afghanistan. I think I might have missed that in the countries that I was listing, but Afghanistan was a big one of them, that she had a lot of friends with. And I'll never, it's weird because it's not a memory that I'll never forget. I'll just never forget how simply it was built into the conversation, how hash was a commodity for them, that they
Mhm.
used cannabis for other things, and it was a vital plant to them. So it first was a plant before it was a drug ever to me. And
Mhm.
understanding that good people These people were fantastic, very caring, very loved. Like, I knew that they couldn't be bad. So I had a little bit of a different view on that side of things.
There was no image of what a cannabis consumer was.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
was
we had
just
like
so
Dare and shit like that, where it was, you know,
melted into the
these type of
couch.
people consume drugs. Do you want to be like those type of people? You know?
I'll never forget laughing at those ads so hard and being like,
Yeah, man,
you'll
like,
never.
are you
I
telling
just want to go try drugs now. You guys screwed up so bad.
Well, dude, it was almost it was like literally Dare and Wiz Khalifa were like the two driving factors that like brought me to cannabis for the first time. You know what I mean?
I love it.
It was
And
Dare being like, "This is horrible. This ends your life, whatever." And then it was like Day to Day with Wiz Khalifa, where he was just like, you know, fucking, we're out here, you know, in Amsterdam at the coffee shop smoking weed, and we were just like, me and my friends were like, this dude is cool as fuck, you
like
know?
you got those guys like, yeah, like him and Snoop, like the forever stoners that we needed to just stand up and defiance by existence. I love.
Exactly.
It was. I can't remember who it was who turned me on to the hash scene, but it was a good friend of mine, and he was obsessed with Snoop. And I. It's so crazy seeing the dots connected as we kind of grow up, because he was a guy I chatted to about a lot about quality of it when we were younger, and it was the spark that set the flame, you know, for my love of hash, the same way that you are, is the history and the story behind it. Like,
Yes, indeed.
it's a beautiful thing to know how it's grown up and has been a symbiotic plant with us for a lot longer than people realize, a lot longer than, you know, it's in our, it's
longer.
way back.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy to say that we do have a traditional hash scene here in Canada. There are some people making some really, really good hash. And are dedicated to the old traditional style. Obviously, you know, the new age hash has its place, and I love dabbing as well, but have a special heart for the old school hash. And, you know, like you mentioned, it's a history to me, because my collection goes back to when I was about, you know, 19, 20. I was that weird guy who just held on to a little bit of my hash.
Well, that's like
all my friends were
man,
like, "What are you doing? Just smoke it." I'm like, "No, man. Someday it's gonna mean
dude, I'm telling you,
something."
you have like a LeBron, like that's like LeBron James rookie basketball cards. You know what I mean? That's the stuff that whenever we do, it's like, you know, it's like if you started collecting vintage wines prior to Prohibition type of
Yeah.
situation. You know what I mean? Where it's like
Yeah.
these things are going to mean something with time. You know, you have like the oxidative factor with hash, where a lot of the outside turns into CBN.
Yep.
You have like the volatile compounds that are like crystallizing over time with it and like really cementing that flavor in on it. Like, these are all things that I think we're only at a point where we're like in like cannabis 2.0 of this like legal market, where we're just happy that it's here.
Yeah.
We're not
Yes.
developing the sophistication layers, but you see people like you know, Kevin Jodrey is somebody who I think of constantly when I think of this, like the man, the myth, the legend, you
The
know.
general, man. Like,
Yeah, truly.
I tip my hat to Kev. He was a huge catalyst to me really taking my advocacy and, you know, education for cannabis to the next level. I met him and Frenchie at I met Frenchie way back when, but really got a chance to speak to him in 2019, I think it was, when Kevin Frenchie came to Niagara Falls for convention there, for Grow Up, which I will shout out as well. One of the best Toronto conventions we have.
Yes,
You
worked with him, right?
Yeah, I'm fortunately on the advisory board now and help
Yeah.
out with the Canadian cannabis competition there. Love the guys there, and looking forward to it in May, I think, in Toronto. Actually,
Nice.
got some big things cooking.
Hell yeah.
But Kevin Frenchie were a huge catalyst for me. Frenchie, obviously, with the hash, was someone that when I got to sit down I genuinely had my mind blown with his dedication and his passion to it. And it's funny that you say one of my most prized possessions is some hash that we made at the hash making, the art of the hash machine class
Yeah,
that he
man. I wanted
used
to go to that class. So I actually have, I don't know if it's on LinkedIn or email, but I have correspondence that I had with Frenchie when I was living in Oklahoma. And I was like, hey, man, I like want to catch one of your classes so bad. And he was like, oh, well, I have one in Boston coming up. You should totally come, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, I don't know, our weird microcosm of cannabis. You think of people as these like larger than life personalities that they are, but like everyone's accessible. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I can go and DM
he
Kev
would.
or
It's what really was so wonderful about cannabis, that it defies the meet your heroes thing. Like,
it really does.
Go meet them, man. They're the best. They literally want to share and disseminate this knowledge free of charge. They love it. They have a passion for it, and it really is something that I strive to do for anybody. You know, if I inspire one or two people to get into this wonderful plant, like really learn about it. I'm not talking about the industry. Go get a job, go pick up a book and learn, understand the history of it. Message me. I'll help you out. Like, I
second that. I was about to say, truly,
we're a very upfront and forward community, and the love that we have for the history of it, I think, makes it even sweeter when like that the memories I have looking at that hash and really watching Frenchie work and the passion that he put into it. I mean, it was really inspiring to see, and is something that I know. I have a collection of people that I went with. Shout out to my boy Dustin, who we've been in the industry together for a long time, and that was one of the first places that we met, and
hell yeah,
still talk about it. And it's weird how cannabis can weave into your life and connect you with some incredible people if you really let it. And I wouldn't it's been always a tough road, but wouldn't change it for the world, man. Just
totally agree.
It's such a cool and enriching experience to peel back the onion, learn about all the lies that were frankly told about it, the truth and the beauty that it has within us. The fact learning, I did like you said previously, I went to school for kinesiology. I have a degree there and worked, fortunately, as a kinesiologist for a bit. So I learned a lot about the body and understand it very deeply. I understand it, and we were not told about the endocannabinoid system. And
both of my parents work in the medical field, and both of them were never taught about the ECS.
It's a crime against humanity.
Totally agree.
To have kept this information from the public, that we have a system in us that is directly linked to this plant. And yes, they're showing there's cannabinoids and other stuff, but let's get, cannabis is everything that everybody compares to. So we've known it for a lot longer than even now. It's not being shared. It's not part of the medical system. And I don't, unfortunately, think it will be for a while because of the powers that be, and we'll leave it at that. But I was outraged, especially as a patient, especially as someone who went through university as an outcast, as a stoner, as someone who needed to duck out in between classes and smoke a fatty to, calm my nerves and get my brain back to it and balance myself. I'm just one of those people. But I was absolutely the dichotomy and the irony of that situation is never lost on me. Being outside, a physiology and biology, like my class, learning about the body and being
soothing
like,
yourself.
Oh my God, why am I like this?
Yeah.
I mean, it was really a revelation for me, and I want that to click for a lot of people. You know, anybody out there who uses cannabis that you think you're crazy, you're not. Whatever your family says, whatever ailment you need to that you think helps, it likely does. But unfortunately, it is a very tough trial and error process, especially with the market that we have now.
Yes,
So I urge anybody to really seek out people from the community and make that distinction. And that is really what I like to be. I originally labeled this as a consulting company, aiming it as an HVAC specialty, you know, really trying to help people understand. I have a degree in industrial cannabis production as well, and really wanted to help people understand how to scale this at a proper level and understand there's a cap and understand that quality is sacrificed the bigger you go, period. It's just
that's the truth. You can literally, any person who cultivates cannabis can unanimously agree that
you have
the
a
larger
cap,
you
man.
get, it's exactly it. I literally saw a video of Kevin the other day saying, if you are going to get into cannabis, my suggestion is get a vertical license with as small of a grow as you can legally have.
Yes.
He said, if you control supply chain and if you can make a grow small enough to control the quality, like in its totality, then that's really how you should do it. So that way you understand market dynamics, you understand how to grow a beautiful plant, and you're not sitting here stressed about 7 flower rooms and, you know, having to troubleshoot constantly and, you know, make those sacrifices in quality to essentially have, you know, more biomass.
It couldn't have put it better. It's too many risks. It's the bigger it goes, the risk potential goes up. And it was so hard falling on deaf ears. You know, I had a lot of people, first off, they were ripping and running in the consulting game. The consultant name has been driven into the ground. So
who are you telling, dude?
I like, it's so tough, you know, branded that way, but I really built from the fabric of the community and really have pivoted back to trying to help people in the medicinal field, whether like I said at the beginning, whether it's healthcare practitioners, families, people who are struggling with the cannabis and want to learn a little bit more. You know, the information is always out there. It's avoiding the mistakes. It's finding someone to help with your journey. It's how I was helped to where I am now. And I wish, you know, I wish I had people like us to turn to back then, but wouldn't have changed it for the world, because it really teaches you, you know, cannabis and me. We
Dude,
go
I was
way
about
back.
to say you learn it
Like,
through the school of hard knocks. One
I
way or
know
another.
I know what I like. I know what I don't, and it's a privilege and an honor to assess cannabis as a ganjier. You know, I that is something that kind of was a pinch me moment the first time I was sent cannabis to review and was paid for it and had the ability to write for it.
That is crazy.
I mean, it was like many in the industry, you know, you're not breaking down doors or anything, you silently celebrate. But I remember having just a mental meditation, and 18-year-old me was pretty psyched about that, super proud, and it meant a lot more than me than I thought, you know.
Yeah, of course, man.
You know, you have, as a stoner, it's inevitable. You have people kind of doubt you and outcast you, and I had a lot of family do that. So
yeah,
you know,
and here you are,
and here we are. Like,
resilient.
if I hadn't listened to anybody ever, video games and cannabis, you know, there you go.
Yeah. Dude, I'll tell you what,
industry
there's a bunch of those instances where you see where everyone said, if you do this, you're going to be a loser. And now you have this collective of people who are making their livings off of what people deemed as losership. And it's like,
crazy.
Dude, it's like, I forgot what you have colleges giving scholarships for people playing video games now. You have whole degrees in industrial cannabis production. You have people who, you know, were trap lords for their young lives that got to transition into the legal game and do things. Like, it is it's a crazy thing to look back and say we made it here, you know?
It is something,
and there's still more to go. but
There
it
is
is
so much
crazy.
more to go. Again, I always get on my pedestal like I was earlier and preach the improvements that we can have and things that need to move. But I always do like to say, it is I'm really proud of everything that everybody does in this community. Like, we brought it back before, defiance by existence, fly your own flag. You're not alone no matter what. And I think it's one of the best parts of this connectivity with social media and the internet. And we're really kind of having a renaissance with um, connecting with
Mhm.
people that are you rather than trying to fit in a mold.
Yeah, put some
The
type of personality out there.
Normal's
Like,
normal's really getting blown, and I love that. I love people in their own skin. It allows us to connect and really share our stories. And from what I've seen, cannabis is just such a good catalyst to it. I've met people from every, it blends with every community, with
mhm.
music, with the veteran community, with
You can
and
name it endlessly,
you
dude.
can name
Cars,
it, like
skateboarding,
car skateboarding. Yeah, like
artists.
rap. Like I just like there's so many things that are woven. It's woven into the fabric so positively too. There's a lot of
Absolutely.
stuff negative on associated with a lot of it, but cannabis is not. It's the best, man.
Well, our goal is to change the perception that I think society large in part has, which is eroding. You see like a 70% approval rate on cannabis, and daily usage rates are higher than daily alcohol usage rates and things
Yeah.
like this. And it is we're just trying to promote that cannabis has its drawbacks, cannabis has its side effects, cannabis is not a perfect panacea, which I think,
Yes.
our industry tends to tout as such, but we know that it's a net positive. And
Yes.
that's like the important part, right? Because I can't say the same for, Dudroxamol or whatever the hell, these 7-syllable pharmaceutical agents that have side effects of sudden death and coughing blood out till you fart,
See, I will say that it's like if that's not a side effect, that's just a straight up effect, man. Like like it's those ads are comical, and it is like I'm really happy to see that, like you say, the needle is moving slower than we'd hoped, but that's the
still
way
moving.
that's the way everything goes, I guess. When you're
Yeah,
in
exactly.
the thick of it, but it is moving. There I can't predict I thought I had my demographic of who wants to learn about cannabis and really into it's been
Everyone.
shattered by the number of people from everywhere, from all over, that really
Mhm.
want to learn and understand it. And it's just so endearing and exciting to see that. But like, yeah, no, we need a push on a larger level, I
Mhm.
think, especially in here in Canada. But it's starting to formulate, and that's something that I'm really proud to be part of. Um,
Damn right.
and it's exciting, it
Hell yeah.
really is. Like we alluded before, we've come a long way as a community, and whoever is part of it is making a difference, whatever you do.
Yes,
That's
indeed.
collectively we've moved mountains. I remember it being a complete fantasy when I was a kid, and live in a federally legal state. It's
Now you
pretty
can
damn
walk into a
cool.
store and buy it.
Yep.
So,
That's
okay. So look, we I have one last thing that I want to cover with you before we go, because I think the crucial difference that we tend to see on things is as an approach to, I don't want to say vice products, but as an approach to these different regulated industries in Canada, something that you see across the board. First time I went to Canada as an adult, I was in Montreal. Um, Shout
great
out
place.
Quebec.
Great
Uh,
place.
yeah, great place.
Party
Crazy. I
town.
saw my first cannabis vending machine. I bought like a stupid amount of edibles and went to the Montreal, the Just for Laughs Comedy Fest.
Oh,
It was
that's a rite of
awesome.
passage, man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Um, but the crazy thing was you walk into a, gas station or a convenience store, and as opposed to in the US, you see every tobacco, nicotine, whatever product, it's all just covered and you have to ask for it by name to get it.
Yep.
And then you see, you look at the packaging for things and it's black and just has like the name of the company and then a bunch of Health Canada stuff and labels and all this stuff. And I guess, kind of speaking to the name of, Cannabis Pros and Marketing Masters,
Oh yeah.
the US market has a little bit more room to play with in terms of how we advertise cannabis. You guys are locked down to an extreme degree. So when it comes to say things like this hash that you guys have in the market that you're like, this is quality, the only people who I feel like can get the best understanding of what is in the market is people like you who are seekers, because no one can advertise anything. So
Yep.
on the one hand, that's a level playing field for small and large producers. And on the other hand, you're screaming into a void. You can't even scream, honestly. It's just a void that exists, right?
I picture we're chained to a bed face down, and you really can't do anything here in Canada as far as advertising. And it's mind-boggling how much they thought about it before. Part of me, again, I agree with us. You can unroll the entire toothpaste tube and then try to get stuff back in. You have to do it slowly and make sure you avoided mistakes. Like let's see what happened. So on one hand, that's understandable, and one of the main goals was to keep the hands out of cannabis from kids, keep kids safe, which it's hard to argue against for sure. However, the way that it is done is crippling to businesses and markets and creating the ability to distinguish yourself. I mean, it's just like you said, the packaging. I actually, I had a time when I worked for an LP a little bit north of myself. I was director of patient care and was working on the medicinal packaging for something. And it literally almost drove me insane trying to understand the arbitrary, the wordings, trying to get questions answered, what you can do, what you can't do. It was genuinely crippling to the business. We couldn't get this thing out. And it really is starting to affect the industry in really negative ways now, especially with retail stores that I'll bring up. And it has to do with robberies because cannabis stores have to be blacked out. You're not able to see inside the front. You're not even able to see inside when you go in the front door.
I saw a video. Was that in Canada?
There's been about 7 in Toronto in the last 2 months. And people,
and they just walk in, man. It's like
nothing. They got machetes, they got guns, they're holding kids, they're holding bud tenders, hostage for, just a couple $100. It's horrible, and it's really, really tough to see zero action go on. So it is something that, like I said, it's hard to argue against keeping kids safe, but as we've alluded to this whole podcast, this is a medicinal product. This is not heroin. This is not cocaine. This is not hard pharmaceuticals. This is something to be educated about, the simple way that alcohol is. You can walk into an LCBO with your kid and wander around, and there's stuff everywhere. And I'm not saying that I agree with that. I'm just saying that you can't have the hypocrisy of it, that it is then locked and hidden behind closed doors and packaging that no one can decipher and understand, which is another thing that we maybe get into another one. But it is intimidating to the point that it's hard not to think it's intentional. And it is something so crippling to the marketing side of things, as I said, with ancillary businesses, and coupled with the taxes and these ridiculously tight regulations, people are running on very, very thin margins, understandably. And that really doesn't drive any innovation. So not many people are able to get their name out in the way that they deserve. And it is something that I'm trying to do in any way, shape, or form. I've been doing hash reviews and cannabis reviews for craft companies, and that's something I love, trying to bring a little bit of light from,
that was my next question, was can you as a consumer do essentially almost third party marketing, I guess? Like if you think, Canadian Cannabis Consumer Magazine or something, you know what I mean? Where it's like you have a bunch of people in different provinces that can go ahead and, give reviews to a bunch of different products that cannabis consumers who are like doing the 20% who are doing 80% of the buying can at least tune into to say, this is the tastemakers and what we should do. Because if your hands are tied as a producer, then it's like the only thing that you can rely on at that point is the voice of the people.
And it's something that we're pushing. We're again relying on the brave souls who want to be the first out, who are kind of risking it and saying, you know what, I'm going to ask forgiveness rather than permission. But it's tough with these federal, Health Canada does not mess around
At all.
They lop heads, man.
Yeah.
And people have found that out. But I personally have put on education, sessions, and really love sharing the knowledge in any way I can, and haven't had anything yet. I mean,
yeah, knock on wood, man.
Knock on wood. Don't say anything. But it is something we deserve, period. Like I default to that as far as if we revert back to fear constantly, then the industry or stalls, and more importantly, the community stalls. But like we said, we move mountains, and whatever we demand collectively, calmly and collectively,
yes, indeed,
we really get to see. So I will say that there are people working on that, and there are some wonderful people who are really trying to put things together as far as the education side of things, trying to help the craft side of things, help anybody they can. I'll shout out one that I love working with, a group of ladies from Education. And they are a fantastic group, really working on putting forth really trying to get certified educators out there, trying to get people on the front lines to help make informed, guided, confident decisions with their cannabis, especially on the medicinal level. And they've been someone I've worked with closely and learned an immense amount on how to treat different ailments, on how to help people from places and backgrounds and points of view that I have a tough time with,
Yeah.
And it's collectively how we can really make a difference, because as you said before, that we don't need just education, we need good education, and people telling, from a point of view of a harm reduction, really understanding that and conveying that cannabis may be for you, it may not be for you, it may work for this, it may not work for this.
Either way, it's okay.
Either way, it's safe,
and it's a complex pharmaceutical product.
Exactly. And it is something that is going to help your body in some way, shape, or form, whether you like. It's that balancing mechanism that comes in, but it does take some guidance, and love working with these kinds of people who are really seeing the future and what the cannabis in community really deserves.
Shout out Education.
Yes,
that's like
wonderful group.
And yeah, man, I think, again, that's the best way to put it across, is that in light of not being able to have any marketing initiatives to put awareness over to a general consumer base, the burden essentially gets put on individuals like yourself and Educate Nation and these other groups that have to essentially teach people, what is the qualitative factors that degrade or enhance your cannabis experience. And it's like you have to hold their hands right now, because you don't have the government you have the government actually putting an effort to reduce the amount of impressionability that cannabis can have on people, which, like, the whole point of why we wanted to bring it to market was for the opposite,
Exactly. It's something that another block that is very important. It's so second nature to me here that is that bud tenders and it's not something I don't agree with, but needs an alternative. Bud tenders cannot provide any medical advice. You cannot make any medical claims with cannabis, period. So in corporation with not being able to advertise, you can't make any claims if your product is super high in CBG, and we understand what it does even through research. No, it's a no-go. And it is something where we're trying to bridge the gap. I've even talked to, and it's something that anybody seeing this, especially in the Ontario market, in the retail side of things, I'm really doing my best to connect with stores and retail locations that want to have people like myself in to help educate your customers, to help make that transition, to educate your bud tenders, to educate anybody who is really in talking and interacting is the word I was looking for, with people on the front line. And it's really important. If I can't get there, I'd love to have, a team of me, but I want to, that is what my goal. I want to have people know more than me. I want to learn from people, but mainly I want to help share my journey and help others get to the same place.
Yeah, dude, I feel like we can chop it up for like 7 hours.
So I love this, man. It's
yeah, I'm excited to see it before.
It's like it's recharging for the soul.
It really
is. To connect with the community, and wonderful quality people like yourself who are trying to do the right thing. And again, shout out to Fat Nugs Magazine, shout out to Beard Bros, shout out to all the publications doing the right thing for the culture and the community. Was honored to be to have a cannabis review in the recent Prisoners edition. I had the fortune of reviewing Victoria Cannabis Company and the Rainbow Marker, which was fantastic. But more importantly, it was such an important issue to shout out the injustices that are still going on. So like you said, you can just chop it up for like hours. There's so many issues
and I want to bring a part 2 on this. So you definitely will be coming back on here, because I want to talk to you about like the writing, and we didn't even get to talk about Jamaica and everything, dude.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my God. That was a lot. We'll leave that for next time. Yeah.
We'll leave it for next time.
Little breadcrumb for next time. I love it.
Tell everyone where they can find you at.
Best place to find me, my email is matt@meristemcannabis.com.
There it is. MERI. I had the mistake of doing MARI, and that is not it.
And that's my fault. I should have made it a little simpler, but fell in love with the name.
No, I love it.
Matt@meristemcannabis.com. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Anybody who wants to message me and have a chat, love to connect. We're always looking to collaborate and create some synergy with people. And best place, yeah, those two. Right. You'll definitely catch a response from me for sure.
Beautiful. You can find me on any socials at Nigel_Ds. On LinkedIn, it's Nigel Despinasse. And you can find Beard Bros Farms anywhere that you can type. So again, want to thank you, Matt. You're the man. Really appreciate your time, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. And thank you guys for tuning into another episode of Cannabis Pros and Marketing Masters. Again, I'm your host, Nigel Despinasse, and we are signing out.